The Trump administration is moving to withhold federal money for SNAP benefits from states that don't share data on recipients. The administration wants the names and immigration status of these recipients so that they can, they say, root out alleged fraud in the program. They have given states until December 8th to comply, but most Democratic states have sued to block the requirement. So I am joined now by constitutional law expert Robert McWhirter to break down this back and forth over this food benefit program. Millions could be impacted. Good morning to you. So can the administration legally withhold the funds? How likely do you see this happening in the next few days?
Legally, I don't think they can. That doesn't mean they won't have the power to try and maybe can create a lot of problems. But I can't see how they're not going to get blocked by the courts. And then we're back on the same problem is this Trump regime going to follow what the court says after the court rules against them?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, we've seen it in how many cases now? I mean, 21 states sued the administration to block this order, and yet here we are.
Yeah. Look, this raises, it's so interesting. A big part of Donald Trump's base are these people who believe in states' rights. But they're not talking about states' rights here. This is a real violation of states' rights. And the way the SNAP benefits work, of course, is it's a complicated formula where California, for instance, puts in a lot of money into the taxes, et cetera, that go to create SNAP benefits. And now the federal government, Donald Trump, wants to withhold them. And I think it's just using children as hostage to affect what's essentially a failed immigration policy to try to desperately jack up numbers of deportations and to draw attention away from the failure.
So why do Democratic states then argue that they should not have to share this data? I mean, you mentioned it right there, the immigration aspect of it. They're worried about the personal information being shared. But is that their main argument then from these Democratic states?
Well, most certainly. But realize when they're talking about sharing the data, they're talking about sharing the data of everybody for the federal government. In other words, to figure out who this Trump administration thinks is an alien, they have to get all the data of all the people on SNAP, and that's just simply something we don't do. That's something that police state does, is want to get all the data about everybody. But we don't allow that. And that's why, again, I mentioned the 10th Amendment to the Constitution says, no, states have powers. They don't have, this whole concept of states' rights really is a misnomer. There is really no such thing as states' rights. But there are state powers, and the Constitution protects that to the states. And now Trump wants to use that information to enforce his failed immigration policy. And I will note, you remember the old 55 miles an hour requirement from the federal government? Well, that was tied in directly to receiving highway tax funds that were directly related. This is totally different. This is using SNAP benefits to hold children hostage to get information about supposed persons, undocumented persons getting benefits, which really doesn't happen, in order to justify a big show on a failed immigration policy.
The administration alleges, though, that there's fraud happening in the program. What kind of fraud do they say is actually happening? Is there any truth to that claim that they say we're going to root out the fraud?
Well, look, in any large program, there is going to be fraud. It's something you enforce. Any kind of government benefit for a program, there's going to be fraud. That's just a matter of the nature of the beast, and certain people are bad actors. Now, what they really want to do is try to perpetuate a false myth that somehow undocumented persons are getting SNAP benefits when they're not allowed to and getting public benefits. The law is very clear that undocumented persons do not get welfare benefits. They do not get public assistance. In fact, most immigrants who are legally in the country get none of those. And they have created this false kind of narrative that huge numbers of undocumented persons are taking their money away and taking American benefits. And it's simply not correct. But they're perpetuating that myth in order to draw attention away from things like Donald Trump's worry about the Epstein files and this failed immigration policy. And so it's just all creating a big smokescreen on issues and playing, it's kind of red meat to his base, but it's not really based in facts.
A constitutional law expert, Robert McWhirter, thank you so much for the time. And of course, this all coming just weeks after what we saw happen during the government shutdown with those food benefits as well. So we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you.